Hi, welcome back to Sales Part 2. And here we're talking about a very, very important topic. It's about the power of influence. Sales is all about influencing. And there are five common errors. Let's talk about the errors first, and then we talk about the growth strategies. There are five common errors that salespeople make in the course of their sales. There are five common errors that salespeople will always make in the course of their conversation, and that can actually derail or destroy a sale to even the most qualified prospect. Now, if you want to know how to influence people, if you want to know how to actually influence your customers, it is important that you are aware of them and that you will avoid these mistakes at all costs. And the first of the most common error that a salesperson faces in day-to-day sales with customers is how to talk and not argue. The first is arguing. When you argue with a prospect, you are indirectly telling them that he or she is wrong. Now, people hate to be told when they are wrong, especially when it is obvious that they are. They dislike people who point out their errors. Now, you need to learn how to talk in a way that is agreeable during a sales conversation. If the prospect is challenging you, if the prospect or the customer is challenging your claims for your product, then use the feel, felt, found method and say something like, I understand how you could feel that way. Now, others felt the same way when we first showed them this aspect of our product. But this is what they found when they started using it. Now, when you eliminate the argument, eliminating the argument is one of the simplest sales techniques for you to begin with. Your job to win a customer, and your job absolutely is just to win a customer and not win an argument. Our intentions is not to win an argument, but to win a customer. Now, unless the customer questions the integrity of your company, unless the customer questions the quality of your product, just let it pass. Focus on what the product can do for him and just ignore the rest. Always believe in yourself. The second most error that salespeople make is not having faith in themselves. The very best salespeople have an attitude of calm, confident, positive self expectation. Now, they feel good about themselves and they have a quiet faith that everything they are doing is contributing toward their inevitable success. Now, they are relaxed more about their lives and their careers because they know how to close a sale. Now, often their customers decide to buy from them even before they've made a sales presentation or even before they've described their product or service. Now, in order to learn how to influence people, in order to learn how to influence your prospects, how to influence your customers, you need to develop the same attitude and attribute of those who are champions of selling everything and everywhere. And often, most of these powerful sales techniques you can have is a strong belief in yourself. And when you have a strong belief in yourself, what's important is the point of view. The third common error that most salespeople make is the inability to connect with their prospects. Human beings are 100% emotional. Don't forget that. Human beings are 100% emotional in that everything that you say or do, all of your decisions, all of your indecisions are determined by our self emotions. So, therefore, in order to learn how to influence people, you need to be able to understand their point of view and connect with what causes them to feel strongly one way or the other. There is a little saying that we teach in our sales seminars that goes like this. If you can see Mr. Jones, through the eyes of Mr. Jones, then you can tell Mr. Jones what Mr. Jones buys. Now, what this simply says is that if you can develop a high level of empathy that you can get out of yourself and put yourself in the mind, in the heart of that person, then you can have an inordinate influence on their actions and their behavior. And the very best salespeople are extremely sensitive and they're empathetic to others. They listen very closely to what others are saying. They listen very closely for the messages that are being conveyed between the lines. They are aware that there are things that are said and there are things that are not said. Perhaps the most powerful technique you can develop to learn how to influence people is the ability to ask questions carefully and then listen attentively to the answers. Remember, listening can build trust and credibility. The more you listen to what the other person is really saying, the more the other person will trust you, and the more the other person will be open to your influence. A basic rule is that you should never say anything if you can find a way to ask it instead. So, and it's important that you tell the truth. The fourth error is avoid overselling. This happens when you say that the product can do something that it cannot. It verges on the border between puffing and misrepresentation. Now, since the element of trust is the critical catalyst that makes the sale come together in the end, you must tell the truth and not do or say anything that might shatter that trust. In fact, understatement in selling today is probably more impressive than overstatement. Instead of you saying something exceptional about the capabilities of your product, you can tell about an experience enjoyed by one of your customers. Put the words in someone else's mouth. It's much more easier for a customer to accept and believe a positive remark if it is someone other than you who has said it. And don't be afraid. Don't ever be afraid. That's the fifth error. The error to avoid is the fear of rejection. People who fear rejection become so overly concerned without offending the customer that they avoid asking for the order. People who actually care only about making the sale often offend the customer and they end up losing it. Now, successful salespeople keep their eyes on both balls at the same time. Now, what do I mean? Salespeople have two qualities, and every salesperson must have that two qualities: empathy and ambition. The quality of empathy causes them to be sensitive to the best interests of their customers. And the quality of ambition on the other end causes them to be focused on making the sales expected of them. And they manage to keep these two qualities in balance. They are both concerned about the customer and they're also concerned about the sale. So the most important are the obstacles. There are several other reasons why the end game of selling is so stressful. There are many, many reasons why sales are not happening. There are many reasons why sales is becoming so tough, why there's so much of stress in selling and it's becoming so difficult. But there are some of the common reasons, some of the common obstacles that stops a sale, some of the common obstacles that holds back the required confidence to sell. And one of those is the fear of failure. The fear of failure. There are several other reasons why the end game of sales is stressful. But first and foremost, the most important is the fear of failure experienced by the prospect because of negative buying experiences in the past over which you could have no control. Prospects are conditioned to be suspicious. Customers are conditioned to be suspicious. They are conditioned to be skeptical and they are wary of salespeople and sales approaches. They may like to buy, but they don't like to be sold. They are afraid of making a mistake. They are afraid of paying too much. They are afraid of finding it on a sale cheaper somewhere else. So it is the fear of failure is the first, and then comes the fear of criticism. They are afraid of being criticized by others for making the wrong buying decision. They're afraid of buying an inappropriate product and finding out later that they should have purchased something else. The fear of failure, of making a mistake in buying your product is the major reason why people object, hesitate, and even procrastinate on the buying decision. Then comes the fear of rejection. The second major obstacle to selling is the fear of rejection, the fear of criticism, the fear of disapproval, which is experienced by the salesperson. Now, you work long and hard to prospect. You work long and hard to cultivate a prospective buyer. And then you are very reluctant to say something that might cause the prospect or the customer to tune you out and to turn you off. You have a lot invested in each prospect, and if you're not careful, you will find yourself being wishy-washy at the end of the sale. Now, rather than risking or incurring the displeasure of the prospect by your asking for a firm decision, customers are busy. The third reason why the end of the sale is difficult is that customers are busy and they are preoccupied. Now, it is not that they are not interested in enjoying the benefits of your product. It's just that they are overwhelmed with work and they find it difficult to make sufficient time available to think through your recommendations and and to make a buying decision. And the better they are as a prospect, the busier they tend to be. And this is why you need to maintain momentum throughout the sales process, and you need to gently push it to a conclusion at the appropriate time. And the worst of all is lethargy. Lethargy is so hard to break. Lethargy that can also cause the sales process to come to a halt without a resolution. Now, customers at times are lazy and they're often quite comfortable doing what they are currently doing. Now, your product or service may require that they make exceptional efforts to accommodate the change or a new way of doing things. Now, they perhaps recognize that they would be better off with your product, but the trouble and expense of installing it seems to make it worth the effort. Now, they see no pressing need or urgency to stop doing what they're doing and start doing something else with what you are trying to sell them. And that's why, because everyone buys at the same time. The good news is that everybody you meet has bought and will buy new products and services from someone, somewhere at some time. Now, if they didn't buy from you, they will surely buy from someone else. Now, you must find the way to overcome the natural, physical, and psychological obstacles to buying, and then you need to hone your skills so that you are capable of selling to almost any qualified prospect that you speak to. And first, I want you to do is recognize the normal fear of making a buying mistake experienced by the customer. Give them every reason you can think of to be confident in dealing with you. And second, accept that everyone you talk to is busy and you are interrupting. Always ask if this is a good time for him to give you his undivided attention. Always ask your prospect, always ask your customer if this is the right time, if this is a good time for them to actually give you their attention. If not, arrange to see them at another time. And what nobody tells you, no one tells you about selling is, have you ever lost a sale because a prospect came up with an objection? It may have happened at the start when they said they were too busy to talk to you, or later when they told you your price was too high. Has this ever happened to you? Has a prospect ever said, I have to think it over? We have another supplier for this. I have to get approval from my boss to buy your product. We really don't need your product right now. I have concerns about your ability to do all this. I'm not sure if your product is perfect. It's like someone out there that is playing a dirty trick on you. Now, you know your company has great products. You know that your company has great services. You know that your company has great stuff compared to your competitors. And what you have is absolutely best. And you know for a fact that the prospect could really benefit from your product or your service. But then what happens? Now, prospects start doing battle with you by throwing multiple objections at you or by just chunking one simple deal killing objection out there. You may even have come up with or been given answers to these common objections. But trying to come back with rebuttals is like chasing the horse after it's out of the barn. It's usually too late. And the most important that you need to understand is the secret to selling. When I first started in sales, the same thing happened to me. I launched into my sales pitch only to find it derailed by the simplest objection. I'd leave frustrated wishing I knew what to do to ensure I never had to deal with those objections again so I could close more sales. Have you ever felt this way too, the way I felt when I started off? Then I discovered the simple secret to selling that turned my career and that turned my life around. It changed the way I started looking at sales. I discovered how to eliminate these objections before those prospects ever brought them up, so that when it was the time for the close, there wasn't anything in the way of finalizing that deal. And the key to getting in the door and closing more sales is having a system for eliminating objections so prospects never bring them up. It's that simple. Selling, my dear friend, selling is like flying a plane. Plane crashes are very rare. It's far safer to fly than drive to the grocery store in your car. Why? Why? Plane crashes are very rare. Selling is like flying a plane, very safe. It's far safer for you to fly from one country to another country than drive to the grocery store in your car. Do you know why? Well, the airlines, now listen to this carefully. This is the secret. This is what that actually changed my whole concept of selling. This is what that actually changed the whole ideology. And this can help you as well. This can really, really help you. This can really be beneficial to you. So listen to this carefully. The airlines don't just wait. I'm going to speak very, very slow so you really get this point. The airlines don't just wait for something to break and then try to fix it when the plane is falling off the sky. They identify, usually the airlines, always, the airlines will identify and they will address maintenance issues before the plane takes off. It's not a perfect system, but their overall record of getting people where they want to go is excellent. For most businesses and salespeople, the preventive maintenance program is missing from the sales process. You're stuck. You're stuck trying to respond to objections in mid-flight. You know, when you're trying to respond to objections in mid-flight, when in fact it's far easier to get rid of them before you even take off, if you have the right program in place. Keeping Keep your selling process in peak health. Keep your selling process in peak health. You know, a generation ago, polio, the fear of polio was in the hearts of parents everywhere. And people died often of smallpox and measles, and yet you hardly hear mention of these diseases today. Why is that? People got tired of treating deadly diseases, and thanks to our scientists, they came up with quick and easy ways for preventing them. Selling is just like your health. If you want to keep it from getting infected with deadly deal killing objections, then you need to treat them before they even infect your sales process. So always get your sales process well maintained before it's time for takeoff. You will learn more and more in the upcoming sales parts that you will be a part of. So see you in part 3 for another wonderful learning on sales and how you can become a great salesperson and use these wonderful learning skills, keys, and tips to build the salesmanship in your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you for watching. See you in part 3.